In this episode of Fallout History, Lore, and Setting, I will explore the history and significance of several various high-profile companies of the pre-war era. If you enjoyed learning more about the Fallout universe, well, I suggest you check out my previous videos exploring and explaining the Fallout history, lore, and setting. And before I begin my endless rambling of Fallout facts, I just want to thank you all out there for watching this video. I am happy to report that this channel has reached around 900 subscribers. I look forward to seeing how far that number can go. Once again, thanks for watching. Warfare fully powered. This was the slogan of West-Tek Corporation. Established in 2002, West-Tek was at one point one of the major developers of military and medical technology of the pre-war era. It's important to note that West-Tek consisted of two divisions, one for weapons and another for medical research. In the weapons department, West-Tek is best known for creating hulking power armor. If you're like me, you get a certain rush of excitement and adrenaline whenever you spot an empty suit of power armor. No doubt these are the most sought after apparel regardless of what Fallout game you're playing. Power armor as it exists in the Fallout timeline and the history of the Fallout games is an interesting subject. They have gone through several key changes lore-wise throughout the last two games of the Fallout series. Fallout 4 of course saw the appearance of fusion cores, which not only power suits of armor but also generators in the various buildings you explore. Most importantly, power armor became bigger and more menacing compared to the suits seen in Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3. Without a doubt, they have become an iconic symbol that represents the destructive potential of old war technology within the Fallout universe, while also becoming synonymous with the series itself, with the covers for Fallout 1, 2, 3, 4, and 76 featuring a guy wearing power armor. West-Tek began making prototypes for the power armor between 2065 and 2067. Many would prove to be unworkable in the field and were riddled with design flaws. However, the prototypes would help pave the way for further advances in power armor technology. In the winter of 2067, the first suit of power armor was deployed in Alaska during the Sino-American War. The T-45 was designed for a single operator and consisted of around 3 layers. The first is a black bodysuit worn by the operator for insulation and protection from injuries. The second layer, known as the recon armor, was a full bodysuit made of thick processed fabric integrated with metal plating that served as a platform for attaching the armor and onboard hardware. The attachment points seen on the recon armor and power cell plug at the naps of the neck are essential for the operation of the power armor itself. This is connected to a third layer that consists of armored titanium panels and a heat shielded frame. Additionally, the various vital parts of the armor allow the wearer to carry heavy ordnance and weaponry. Rubber-coated couplings protect each joint, while the abdomen is covered in the flexible armor reinforced with kinetic dampeners for balance and agility. The breastplate of the armor protrudes forward and features a pair of radiation scrubbers underneath, connecting to the rear module with a pair of hoses. Finally, the helmet, made with the same titanium, it features an air filter and voice modulator along with bulletproof eye slits utilized in ballistic glass and a pair of rubberized hoses that provides a filter for air. The helmet's peripherals also include a targeting system on the right side that is powered by a fusion battery. These suits of armor were effective in beating back Chinese advances during the Sino-American War. The power armor proved to be such a success that by 2069, West-Tek would become the largest defense contractor for the United States government, and they would work for the next 7 years to develop the more functional T-51 power armor, along with fixing the various issues of the T-45. When this armor was released, plenty of people did not know of the serious design flaws connected to the T-45. One particular design flaw was actually exploited by Cooper Howard in the last episode of Season 1 of the Fallout series. The weld below the chest plate was vulnerable to penetrating rounds from a high caliber weapon, a flaw that West-Tek knew well about but decided to release it regardless. This flaw resulted in many US soldiers losing their lives while wearing these suits of armor. In the field of biomedical research, West-Tek is responsible for the original forced evolutionary virus strand. This virus is responsible for just about every large creature or abomination you can think of that you run into in the wasteland. And more importantly, this virus spawned one of the biggest threats to the survival of humanity: super mutants. Big, ugly, towering green monsters with the habit of raiding small settlements and carrying off human prisoners. Super mutants are by far the most organized and deadly mutants in the wasteland. While West-Tek didn't directly create these vile monsters, the FEV virus developed by the company helps make super mutants what they are. The origins of the FEV virus can be traced back to the year 2053. Around the 2050s, the virulent contagion known as the New Plague was spreading across the United States. This deadly contagion was characterized by symptoms such as profuse swelling, contusions, and external hemorrhaging. The New Plague spread so wide that a national quarantine was mandated in 2053, and this was the year that West-Tek would begin to develop a cure. West-Tek would choose to create a research facility in 2055 in California that would focus on biological research to discover a cure for New Plague. Most of the research would prove to be unsuccessful, but given the already profitable relationship with the United States government, West-Tek would choose in 2073 to create the Pan-Immunity Virion Project. While not aimed to cure the New Plague, the goal was to create a virus that would improve human immune systems to better defend against biological warfare and pandemics. This would begin the period of testing on various animal subjects, such as flatworms, rats, and raccoons, that would eventually shift to testing on human subjects. After some initial experiments, PvP was confirmed to be an evolutionary mutagen. By March of 2075, it would be renamed to the forced evolutionary virus that we know today. While the origins of FEV are tied to California, it's important to note that throughout the Fallout timeline, there are variations of FEV virus used across West-Tek's various research facilities in the United States. That is why the various super mutants and mutants that we find across the various Fallout games are very much different. But getting back to West-Tek, they had one more go at PvP for a greenhouse initiative. Some of the key side effects noted for early testing of PvP were an increase in muscle mass and induction of slow replicating cells. The West-Tek researchers wanted to use the mutagenic potential of PvP to create and mass-produce edible plants and vegetations. This was in response to food riots occurring in major cities across the United States. To achieve this, West-Tek needed a proper spot where PvP could be tested, and this spot would be Huntersville. But in the pre-war days, the spot known as Huntersville was a small and quiet farming community that was on the verge of drying up. In 2075, West-Tek and the government offered the town a rural development grant for a brand new water recycling system and sewer lines. They would also establish another West-Tek facility. By 2076, Huntersville became a thriving town that attracted all types of people that brought in plenty of money. But in February of 2076, many of the townspeople began falling ill with a strange new disease. As more and more people became sick, the town proposed for West-Tek to use their resources to treat sick people. But West-Tek would convince them that the illness was just a common flu, despite the loss of hair and the change of skin color that many of the townies experienced. By August, people were noting various mutations occurring in those who suffer from the disease. Green skin, deformities, and increased aggression. West-Tek doctors ordered people to stay confined to their homes. Under military order, the town was quarantined and under strict lockdown. Meanwhile, residents began to turn feral, attacking military personnel on site. Despite all the chaos, West-Tek continued to deny anything out of the ordinary. Little did the townspeople know that the Greenhouse Initiative had long been abandoned, and Huntersville's new water recycler was being used to expose residents to FEV in small doses. Research facilities like the one in Appalachia were used to test the limits of FEV by West-Tek, but in Mariposa, researchers focused on the operational strand of the virus. By 2076, the United States Defense Department wanted to take a larger role in the development of the forced evolutionary virus. In this year, they would send Colonel Robert Spinell and Captain Roger Masson to both secure and oversee the project in Mariposa. On October 10, 2077, the soldiers discovered that West-Tek scientists were performing FEV experiments on military prisoners. What followed was an intense and heated situation that made Maxson question his role at the Mariposa base. Robert Spinell, devastated by the revelation, locked himself in his office, while Masson ordered the West-Tek scientists to be interrogated for more information on the experiments. The scientist that was first interrogated was Chief Researcher Robert Anderson, who informed Masson that the human experiments were sanctioned by the U.S. government. Maxson didn't believe it one bit. Soon an argument erupted between Maxson and Anderson, and Maxson ended up shooting Anderson right in the head. 2 days later, Maxson would try to speak with Colonel Spinell, who refused to open his office door. After ordering the door to be broken in, Spinell confronted Maxson and apologized, and then shot himself, effectively putting Maxson in charge of the operation. In the days to follow, more scientists would be interrogated and shot. It was not until West-Tek scientist Aaron Shelmel spoke to the captain that he finally believed that the government was responsible. On October 20th, 2077, Captain Maxson declared his unit in full secession from the United States over the radio. But no response came. Little did Maxson know that the Great War was looming in the wake of his rebellion. By October 23, 2077, the Great War commenced. As the nuclear bombs fell, Maxson and his comrades were protected from the nuclear fallout. Fearing the possibility of a Chinese attack, Maxson ordered his soldiers and their families to evacuate the Mariposa base and head south to the government bunker known as Lost Hills. Over the next weeks, he and his group suffered casualties in making their way to Lost Hills. At Lost Hills, the survivors of the journey would establish a functional outpost equipped with surviving satellite connections, and from there they would form the Brotherhood of Steel, adopting new ranks and new ideology. Over the years, Mariposa would fall into disrepair and more creatures of various sizes would make their way in. The creatures that found their way inside would mutate and infest the surrounding areas. In 2102, a caravan master by the name of Harold led a group of explorers to destroy the Mariposa base. In order to eliminate the source of the mutants, Harold and his group decided they would need to blow the base completely sky high. Among this group was a man by the name of Dr. Richard Gray. Not accounting for the automatic defenses of the base, the explorers were attacked, and all but Harold and Dr. Gray survived. Upon making their way down to the 4th level where the FEV vats were located, a crane smashed into them. Dr. Gray ended up falling directly into one of the vats of FEV, while Harold was knocked out. After Gray crawled out of the vats, he stumbled into the control room. Rather than dying, his body began changing and his intellect began to grow. In just a few days, he was neural linked to the base computer, drawing upon his sizable data banks. Slowly, Gray would use the technology of the Mariposa base to capture explorers and dip them into the FEV vaults, in an attempt to make the perfect beings similar to him. Dr. Gray would not stay in Mariposa, as he wanted a base that he could call his own. Richard Gray would make his way to occupy the Los Angeles vault. It was here where Richard Gray would neural link with the vault's central computer in both mind and body, in the process becoming the master of the super mutant army. Ruthless, tactical, and all-knowing. Those are the words typically used to describe Robert Edwin House, the founder of RobCo Industries, one of, if not the largest and most influential computer and robotics corporations in the United States before the war. The setting of the Fallout timeline itself is filled to the brim with technological advances such as robots, Pip-Boys, computer terminals, reactors, and more. Just about every faction and settlement in the Fallout universe has had some experience or contact with the tech created by RobCo. But before we understand the role of RobCo in the post-nuclear era, we first have to understand the life of Robert House. Born in Las Vegas, Nevada on June 25, 2020, Robert House was only 2 years of age when both his parents died in a freak accident. House, at a young age, was cheated out of his inheritance by his older brother, Anthony House. who went on to found the H Tools Company. Unlike other businessmen with a family legacy, House had to work for everything. At the age of 18, he was accepted into the Commonwealth Institute of Technology. In the year 2042, at the age of 22, he found RobCo Industries. Being a technical genius with an acute acumen for business, Robert House would become the nation's most eccentric businessman. Before the war, RobCo would produce some of the most sophisticated technology with various functions. Anyone navigating through an old pre-war vault, building, or household will most likely stumble upon a RobCo terminal. All walks of people used computing devices throughout the pre-war days. These terminals could handle everything from communications, data storage, security systems, and inventory management, along with being able to load most holotapes. Terminals are used a lot around the wasteland today, and many of them contain plenty of information and messages from the pre-war days. If you're able to find them, you might stumble upon messages speaking of hidden treasure or pre-war tech. You also might find out more about the people and the society that existed before the bombs dropped. Each of the terminals produced by RobCo ran on the RobCo Industries Unified Operating System, a text-based user interface that manages the computer's hardware. This system in turn is compatible with different pieces of tech such as mounted gun turrets, security doors, and various household safes. Throughout the Fallout series, terminals have been given various revisions given their style and functions. Within Fallout 1 and 2, terminals were typically scenery objects, sometimes ruined or functional. The average settlement did not use them, whereas terminals in places like vaults, military bases, and research facilities were functional and could be used if the player's science skill was high enough. But more modern games, such as Free, New Vegas 4, and 76, the player can, at various science skill levels, access terminal control doors, turrets, and safes. These games also introduce hacking as a key game mechanic for assessing areas and information. More so a way of utilizing these science skills and perks more effectively than what was seen in previous games. Along with terminals, RobCo was responsible for the many robots seen walking around the wasteland. Whether they're handling domestic chores in the household, working security details for large companies, or just simply serving as companions, robots in the Fallout timeline have played a big role in the lives of Americans. First debuting in 2063, the Protectron unit was a fairly cheap work drone capable of carrying out various tasks. In places like the Commonwealth, Protectrons can still be found and activated. Due to their inexpensive cost, they were built to fill in some essential roles as a cost-effective solution. Throughout the years, RobCo would offer various drones with different designs. Some examples include construction drones that were equipped and shielded with reinforced head, emergency lights, and internal power tools like nail guns. You also have the firefighter models that are equipped with cryo guns for easy fire suppression. There are also those medical units that come equipped with a built-in defibrillators. The mass production of these robots would add to the social unrest by replacing American workers in the job market. Robots typically don't have personalities. They're often just walking calculators designed to handle various functions with no complaints or resentment. It's easy to see why someone would prefer a robot over a person. Quite simply, it became more convenient to hire domestic bots rather than cleaning your own home or even hiring somebody to do it. First introduced in the year 2037, the Mr. Handy unit was first manufactured by General Atomics International. Initially, they served as a general construction and maintenance unit used in the US and Mexico. Mr. Handy has to be one of the first robots in the Fallout timeline mass-produced. By the late 21st century, General Atomics had to compete with more advanced robots. In order to maintain their presence, the company would enter a joint venture with RobCo Industries. With this partnership, General Atomics was able to access the mind of Robert House and his company. In turn, this partnership would result in a newer, sleeker, elegant design of Mr. Handy with self-programming and initiative. General Atomics would also secure a contract with the U.S. Army, which would result in the creation of the more deadly Mr. Gusty model variants and the legendary Liberty Prime. Throughout its existence, RobCo would establish various long-lasting relationships that would prove to be pretty lucrative. Various companies like General Atomics had the technology and know-how, schematics, and ingenuity to create advanced technologies, but in most cases they lacked the money and the resources to develop them. That's where RobCo comes into play, as many companies such as the Nuka-Cola Corporation, Artos Prima, and Hornwright Industrial sought to make deals with RobCo. Over the years, RobCo would initiate a series of hostile takeovers where Robert House would acquire valuable assets through any means necessary. Between 2075 and 2076, RobCo would acquire the majority share of REPCOM Aerospace, the rocket engineering and production company of Nevada. The company specialized in the manufacturing of rockets and the production of alternative fuel, both plasma and fusion-based. This led to RobCo focusing attention on the development of weapons for the U.S. military and repurposing REPCOM's plasma and rocket propulsion systems. The true legacy of Robert House lies in the technology used in the underground vaults. Throughout the 21st century, RobCo formed a lasting partnership with corporations such as West-Tek. For those entering the vault, they would each be given a West-Tek issued Pip-Boy manufactured by RobCo. This device needs no introduction, as the use of the Pip-Boy is a regular practice regardless of which Fallout game you play. Besides Pip-Boys, RobCo would also assist in the construction of several notable vaults in the wasteland, the most prominent being Vault 79, located in West Virginia. This vault was notably given a vault turret system developed at RobCo Research Center as the semi-autonomous immobile weapon platform. Robert House would utilize the construction of West-Tek technology to construct his own underground dwelling in Nevada. A few years before the war, Mr. House would take steps to ensure that he, along with the remnants of his company and hometown, Las Vegas, would survive the blast. Using technology acquired from REPCOM, he would manage to destroy any nuclear bombs in the sky well before they could hit Las Vegas. He would also place his physical body in an enhanced life support device, similar to the stasis pod used at West-Tek. Meanwhile, his brain would be wired directly into a vast information network via a supercomputer. And lastly, he would lay plans for the construction and delivery of the infamous Platinum chip, which contained the necessary OS upgrade for his Securitytrons. West-Tek weren't the only ones planning on establishing a new world order. Mr. House wanted to use an army of Securitron robots in order to protect his hometown from possible threats, along with establishing himself as de facto ruler of the Strip and the surrounding territory. Begin your odyssey with us. As the fuel shortage of the 21st century went on, various companies attempted to capitalize on troublesome times by offering new and old forms of power. One of them was Poseidon Energy, an umbrella corporation that controlled various oil rigs, gas stations, and power plants around Nevada throughout the pre-war era. At a time when gasoline was rare and expensive, Poseidon maintained a profitable monopoly over fuel. While mainly concentrating in the operation of oil rigs and gas stations, the company also made money from mining and refining the little oil that still remained in the world. In their efforts to control the energy market, Poseidon cooperated with various companies in gaining more oil and squashing any organized labor force. One famous incident took place in the 20th century when workers, in protest of deplorable work conditions and low pay, staged a walkout at a Poseidon plant in Appalachia. Supported by the Associated Miners Union workers, the workers pulled out of the facility in an effort to form a picket line. They were soon met by hallucinogen riot control gas, under orders by on-site security director named Brent Olson. The gas would turn the otherwise peaceful protesters into an angry, rampaging horde that overran the perimeter and seized control of the plant. Poseidon Energy is also remembered for their involvement in the United States shadow group known as the Enclave. Their offshore oil derrick was repurposed under Enclave control, which would later become known as the Navarro Refinery. In fact, various technology that the Enclave would adopt also came from Poseidon Energy. As the world moved towards alternative energy to combat the fossil fuel shortage, Poseidon Energy shifted its focus to nuclear power. Poseidon Energy built and operated nuclear power plants across the U.S., contributing to the growing reliance on atomic energy. Poseidon Energy would create one of their larger facilities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This plant was a major power station prior to the war, and the utilization of atomic energy would generate electricity for the entire region. As the years went by, the company would dabble more and more with nuclear fission and fission technologies. Poseidon Energy was heavily involved in nuclear fission, and for that reason, they would also contribute some technological advances to the U.S. military, mainly power armor, as Poseidon would produce items such as fusion cores that allow soldiers to operate power armor in the first place. The global energy crisis of the 21st century forced many Americans to consider alternative fuel sources. This is how Americans turned to nuclear power to meet their energy needs. Particularly nuclear fission, which is a reaction involving two different atomic nuclei and subatomic particles. This reaction can release energy and serve as a better source of energy. Fusion power would be the power that Americans use to power buildings, homes, and, yes, cars. Founded sometime around the 2070s, the Chryslus Motor Company was a prominent automobile manufacturer famous for their Corvega brand of vehicles. This company's cars, more than anything, characterized the attitude of Americans at the time. Big, powerful, technologically sophisticated, and luxurious. Of course, when these cars were being manufactured, only a fraction of the American population could actually afford a Corvega. These cars were truly a status symbol, boasting powerful acceleration with a long-lasting atomic battery. Of course, this wasn't the only vehicle that the company produced. Over the years, they would produce several different models of vehicles, such as the Analog Coupe, a classic two-door sports coupe with an oversized front-mounted engine. The Atomic V8, which was a sedan that was one of the most popular models in the Corvega line. And the more economically friendly Blitz, a variant of the Corvega line designed to combine good performance with low maintenance requirements. Nuka-Cola is the most sought-after soft drink of the wasteland. To this day, one can still stumble upon the occasional bottle of the sweet stuff in a variety of flavors. In 2044, the Nuka-Cola Corporation entered the beverage market with the soon-to-be iconic Nuka-Cola soft drink. Invented by John Caleb Babberton, Nuka-Cola was the preferred soft drink of the 21st century. And it's basically no wonder why, since the drink contained 120% of the recommended allowance of sugar. Nuka-Cola wasn't just bad to consume, but it was also extremely addictive. Nuka-Cola had a very unique taste, as the creator, John Babberton, used a combination of around 17 fruit essences to balance and enhance the flavor of the cola. Notably, the soft drink had an excessive amount of caffeine in it as well. Combine that with the excessive amount of sugar and you have a Nuka-Cola addiction. Of course, I'm not here to talk to you about soft drinks, but the company who makes it. As a drive to improve and innovate the formula of the soft drink, the company would attempt to buy out competitors and use their flavor combinations to create new variants of Nuka-Cola. This would occur with their attempts to buy out companies like Sunset Sarsaparilla and Vemi Pot throughout the mid-21st century. The very last variant of Nuka-Cola was created in October 2076, Nuka-Cola Quantum, the only soda that can be utilized as a weapon. Well, not exactly. Quantum was created after John Caleb Babberton and his team created an isotope of strontium-90 that could be used as a weapon, mainly as a projectile for the Fat Man, but also as a coating for power armor. But at some point, they had the idea of adding strontium-90 to the Nuka-Cola formula. 90 would become the first isotope to be deemed safe for human consumption. However, 62 test subjects died as a result of organ failure, while various others were hospitalized with radiation burns. The families of the victims were given fruit and cheese baskets with a signed liability waiver. Eventually, a safe isotope was created, and the first cases of Nuka-Cola Quantum hit the market in these select cities on the East Coast. Now we come to our last company, Wilson's Automatoys, a toy company founded in 2042 by George Wilson and Arlen Glass. Their debut product would be the Giddy Up Buttercup, which sold for around $16,000 per unit. The Giddy Up Buttercup was a smash hit on the toy market, but the success would go to the founders' heads, as throughout the company's existence, the two founders, Wilson and Glass, would devote all of their time working on new models of the Giddy Up Buttercup. Both entrepreneurs would neglect their family and miss plenty of family functions. Over the years, the sales of the toys would decline, and this was due to several reasons, but mainly due to the overbearing costs, which, as the sales forecast would indicate, that by 2077, the Giddy Up Buttercup would decline in sales by around 17%. There's also the issue of brand stagnation and market saturation. Basically, the company wouldn't do anything to lower the production costs of the toy, along with the overselling of the product. In response to this, Arlen Glass will set about finding new ways to enhance the brand's appeal, such as marketing collectible variants. For instance, alternative models for boys and premium princess lines for girls, promotional tie-ins with Hubris Comics, Nuka-Cola, and West-Tek. Towards the declining years of the company, George Wilson, one of the chief founders, would abdicate his position as company president to his son Mark Wilson. In 2077, the new president would secure the SIFE program initiated by the United States. SIFE was a classified material production program which sought to repurpose civilian manufacturing infrastructure in order to create munitions for the Army. The applications for Wilson Automatoys was accepted by the government on September 1st, 2077. From this point, Wilson Automatoys would begin converting factory assembly lines into munitions assembly lines. Rather than making toy horses, the company would create landmines. While all this was going on, Arlen Glass would be left out of the loop, as for the most part, he kept working to improve the Giddy Up Buttercup. Little did he know that on October 20th, 2077, at the company's final board meeting, he would meet a representative of the American military and learn that the company would manufacture weapons for the Army. This caused Arlen Glass to have a public meltdown, and Mark Wilson, then the acting CEO, was forced to have him removed from the building by security. Glass was fired indefinitely, despite being the founder and heart and soul of the company. The pre-war era in the Fallout timeline is interesting for me for various reasons, but by far the key takeaway that we can take from this video is the unchecked power that various companies and corporations had accumulated in the pre-war years. And this is mainly because they offered services that the US government and Army wanted to utilize. Out of the necessity of public defense and the need to equip the American military with advanced weaponry, corporations were able to ignore things like human rights or providing safe working conditions. They could also produce very much harmful products that would endanger its users. One of the primary factors that saw corporations like West-Tek, and RobCo have unchecked power was the Superseded Espionage Act of 1917. This act gave the United States government and its respective law enforcement agencies the means to prevent any insubordination in military operations. And in discussing several of these companies that were mentioned in this video, it's important to note that they did in fact secure defense contracts with the US government and Army. And this is mainly how their power was able to go unchecked for so long. That concludes this exploration on the history of the various companies that made up the pre-war era of the Fallout timeline. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments. And if you feel as though I left any important companies out, please let me know so that in future videos I can mention them. Thank you once again for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.